She was driving faster than she ever had, her heart pounding with urgency. A loved one's life was on the line, and every second mattered. This was no ordinary drive. It was a race against time to save someone she cared about. But just as hope flickered in her chest, flashing red and blue lights filled her rearview mirror. Pulled over on the side of the road, she found herself face to face with officers whose words and actions revealed more than just a routine stop. Tensions rose, and her desperation collided with an unexpected roadblock. What started as an urgent mission became a test of resilience, strength, and the human spirit. What happened next not only changed her life forever, but sent ripples through her entire community. Stay tuned as we uncover this extraordinary story of courage, injustice, and the power of one moment to spark a movement. The woman behind the wheel, Maya, had always been known for her calm under pressure. But tonight, everything was different. Her phone sat on the passenger seat, still open to the frantic text message from her sister. It was a cry for help, the kind that made Maya drop everything and sprint out the door. She had no time to think, just act. But now, as the officer approached her window, Maya felt her hands tighten on the steering wheel. She knew she wasn't speeding out of recklessness but out of urgency. She tried to explain, her voice trembling with the weight of the situation. Yet, instead of understanding, she was met with suspicion. The questions came sharp and fast, but none of them were about the emergency she was racing toward. Time was slipping away, and with it, the chance to save the life she was trying so desperately to protect. Maya's voice grew firmer as she explained the emergency, hoping to make the officers understand. But the look in their eyes told her they weren't listening, at least, not to her words. Instead, they asked why she was driving through this particular neighborhood so late at night. They questioned where she was going and why she seemed nervous. Maya's heart sank as the minutes ticked by, each second pulling her further from the person who needed her. She thought about calling her sister back, but one of the officers noticed her glance toward the phone and quickly warned her not to touch it. The weight of the situation pressed on her chest like a boulder. Maya's urgency, her desperation, they were being drowned out by the assumptions these officers seemed to have already made. Meanwhile, across town, her sister was waiting, terrified, alone, and running out of time. Maya could feel her pulse in her ears as the officers continued their questions, their focus on everything except the emergency she was racing toward. The glow of their flashlights made her surroundings feel surreal, like time had slowed down in the worst way possible. She tried again to explain, her voice cracking under the pressure. "Please, my sister needs me. She's in danger. Let me go, just let me go." But her pleas seemed to fall on deaf ears. One officer stepped away to run her license, while the other stood by her car, watching her every move. Maya's hands trembled, her fingers itching to grab the phone, to do something, anything to reach her sister. She couldn't shake the thought of what might already be happening, the seconds slipping away like grains of sand through her fingers. Then, just as her desperation peaked, something unexpected happened. Another car approached, its headlights slicing through the tension-filled darkness. Maya's breath hitched. Who was it? And would they make things better or worse? The car slowed as it approached, its bright headlights dimming. Maya squinted, her mind racing with possibilities. Was it someone coming to help? Or was this about to take a turn for the worse? The vehicle came to a stop just a few feet away, and a tall figure stepped out, illuminated briefly by the red and blue lights. It was an older man in a suit, calm, confident, and seemingly out of place in the chaos unfolding on the roadside. He walked toward the officers with purpose, ignoring Maya's confused expression. "Is there an issue here?" he asked, his voice firm but controlled. The officers hesitated, exchanging glances. Something about this man's presence shifted the energy, but Maya couldn't tell if it was for better or worse. The man glanced at her, then at the officers, and his next words sent a chill down her spine. "You might want to think carefully about what you're doing here." The officers stiffened at the man's words, their confidence wavering. One of them stepped forward. "This is a routine traffic stop," he said, though his voice now lacked the authority it held moments before. The man didn't flinch. Routine. Well, someone's life is at stake. He countered, glancing pointedly at Maya, who sat frozen, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. For the first time, Maya felt seen. "She told you about the emergency," the man continued, his voice sharper now. "And yet here we are, wasting precious time." He turned back to Maya. "Call your sister. Now." The officers hesitated, but something about the man's presence silenced their objections. With shaking hands, Maya grabbed her phone and dialed. Relief washed over her when her sister's voice came through, weak but alive. "Maya, please, hurry," her sister pleaded. As Maya drove off moments later, adrenaline pumping, she couldn't shake the thought. Who was that man? And why had he shown up just in time? The answers to those questions would change everything she thought she knew about that night. Maya reached the hospital just in time. Her sister, pale and trembling, was rushed into emergency care, and the weight of the night finally began to lift. Hours later, a doctor came out with a tired but reassuring smile. Her sister would recover. Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, tears streaming down her face. As she sat in the waiting room, her thoughts kept circling back to the mysterious man. Who was he, and why had he stood up for her? Days later, she got her answer. A local journalist contacted her, piecing together what had happened that night. The man wasn't just a passerby. He was a community advocate, someone who'd spent years fighting for justice in situations exactly like hers. Maya's story sparked conversations far beyond her small town, a reminder of how a single act of courage can ripple outward, changing lives in unexpected ways.